I'm Frank Kelderman, and I teach literature in the English department at the University of Louisville. One of the courses I love to teach most is Native American literature, which I frequently offer here in the English department. When I teach literature from the 19th century, I often introduce my students to this artifact, which is known as Lone Dog's winter count. A winter count is a pictographic calendar that was used by peoples on the Great Plains to commemorate specific historical events on a yearly basis. Painted on a buffalo hide, it's called a winter count because a yearly cycle was not measured by particular dates as in the Western calendar, but rather by the first and the last snowfall. Lone Dog's winter count was kept by the Yanktonai Nakota people between 1800 and 1871. The pictographs that you see on the winter count are mnemonic devices, which help the keeper of the winter count remember a particular event from that year and recall which events happened during the same cycle. So the winter count did not just commemorate the events depicted, but these were the starting points for commemorating more elaborate histories. The keeper of the winter count would typically make multiple copies, since the pictographs were likely to fade over time. You read the winter count by starting in the middle and then following the pictographs counterclockwise in concentric circles. If we start at the beginning, you'll see the events that mark the first 3 years of the 19th century. The first one looks like a drawing of 30 sticks, which represents 30 Yanktonai Nakota people who were killed in a battle with the Crow people that year. Next to it, we see a figure covered in red dots, a severe outbreak of smallpox that killed many in the nation. And after that, we see a horseshoe. This commemorates a successful raid in which they stole horses with shoes on their feet, meaning they stole horses from white people. But winter counts also recorded natural phenomena. For example, this pictograph depicts falling stars around a crescent moon. This is a reference to the Leonid meteor storm of 1833, an astronomical phenomenon that was experienced around the world. The Yanktonai Nakota referred to this year as the year the stars fell. And there are numerous references also to the interactions between the Yanktonai Nakota and white Americans, which you can often recognize by a figure in black wearing a hat. These include pictographs about battles, but also about peace treaties that were negotiated, represented here by two figures shaking hands. What makes the winter count so interesting for me is that it tells a version of Native American history in which the story of the United States is not central, but in which the relations between different Indian nations on the Great Plains were much more important. That means that we can contrast the winter count with American narratives of the 19th century, which typically saw American expansion into the Western territories as a story of progress in which Native people would eventually disappear as settlers built out their society in the West. Against this idea, Lone Dog's winter count offers a different reckoning of time and place, one that was not marked by such narratives of settler expansion, but by human and environmental events that were not typically central to the American story. For this reason, I see Lone Dog's winter count as part of a wider history of Native American writing, which also includes books like The Life of Black Hawk, the autobiography of the Sauk leader who fought against an army of settlers in present-day Illinois in 1832. And it also includes American Indian stories by the Yankton Dakota author Zitkala Shah, who wrote short stories and autobiographical writings in the early 20th century, including her memories as a student and a teacher in American Indian boarding schools. It's because of works like this that I love teaching courses in the English department, and to discuss these texts with students at the University of Louisville who bring their own interpretations to them as well. If you'd like to hear more about the classes we teach, go to the website of the English department at the University of Louisville and check out our undergraduate and graduate courses.